is happening, guys? Welcome to Powell Music. Be sure to like and subscribe on the channel so you can get updates on these episodes, videos for when they come out. Be sure to check out the right here. Be sure to check out all the other links above me, above the logo. And this is Mars Volta week. I'm just saying, man, it's Mars Volta week, and we are counting down the days until the Mars Volta album comes out, which is a self-titled album, the first album or piece of work that's come out in about 10 years or so, if I'm not mistaken, and very super excited. In this video, I wanted to talk about potentially your favorite Mars Volta albums. And for me, obviously, I'm going to talk about some of my favorite Mars Volta albums, Mars Volta moments, some Mars Volta songs, just auditory experiences that have grabbed me as a Mars Volta fan. If you are not hip to what is happening or what I'm saying, Mars Volta, the new album, comes out on the 16th, September 16th. And super stoked about it. Obviously, there's 3 singles from the album that have been released that are super dope. Check them out. Super dope. And yeah. So to get started, so a funny story. I was talking to, I remember when I used to work at GameStop back in the day, and I was talking to one of my associates. He's a big music fan, plays guitar and whatnot. He was kind of flaunting that he plays guitar too. It's just kind of funny. It's roll my eyes. But I was like, yeah, I play guitar too. He was talking to me about a band, though, that he really liked, that he really dug. And I was like, well, what band are you referring to? And I think he was referring to 30 Seconds to Mars. So for some reason, I typed in Mars because I forgot the rest of the name of the band. So I typed in Mars into the search engine that I was using. I'm not going to say which one I was using. But I came across a bunch of tracks and an artist, band name, called Mars Volta. And I think that was the band that he was referring to, but I think he was actually referring to 30 Seconds to Mars. Which is funny. So I found out about Mars Volta on accident because I typed in the wrong band name. And then when I listened to Mars Volta, I was like, whoa, this is weird, but I kind of like this. And I just fell in love with the band. Absolutely. I think the first album I actually listened to from the Mars Volta was actually Amputexture. I think Amputexture was actually the first album that I listened to, and super stoked. I remember, I think one of the first, I just started from the top, Vicarious Atonement, and then Tetragrammation, which they will never play live, ever. Completely understand. It's an incredibly complicated song from a composition standpoint. And just, I mean, the song's 16 minutes, as you can see, and this is probably a cut down version for the album, you know what I mean? But I love this. I love this. This album is so fucking awesome. And to me, it goes even harder than Delouse. I know Delouse is their most popular album, rightfully so, I would say. They're just better. I think they're just tighter, more focused songs. And then just as a cohesive project, 10 songs, just a cohesive project. This is a classic album, I would say. Whether you're a Mars Volta fan or not, this is a classic album. So I think absolutely this, definitely deserves to be the most popular. But I start with Amputexture, where they're just kind of turning it up to 11. You know what I mean? So they really went there. Then obviously later I found out that like Flea and John Frusciante did some guitar work and bass work. I think Flea did some trumpet work on the album as well. Yeah, and I just fell in love with the fucking album, man. Day of the Baphomets, I remember watching a live performance from that, an old live performance, but I was like, this is so fucking great. Yeah, I just fell in love with absolutely fell in love with the band. So Amputexture is up there for me. I think Amputexture is probably maybe top 3. Delouse is probably my most favorite. Well, shit, that's hard because I lean between Deleuze and I lean between Francis the Mute, just because Francis the Mute, and I still have to do that video that I discussed earlier. But to me, it's some of the most ambitious music ever made. And such an intense concept album as well. Also, and I think a lot of people, I think for people outside of the spectrum, of being a Mars Volta fan, not listening to it, nobody would know. Nobody would know that Francis the Mute is about what it is unless you did research. In my opinion, obviously it would be a different scenario for those who speak, Spanish or what have you. They would kind of be able to put the pieces together a little better. But a lot of the times he speaks in English on Francis the Mute. So what am I talking about? Yeah, I just think most people wouldn't know that it's what the album is about. They probably would know it's a concept album some way, shape, or form, especially with the name of the songs. But putting the pieces together on what specifically is happening, I think as far as from the story perspective, most people probably wouldn't know. But such an amazing piece of music. Just amazing. And to keep in mind too, I'm sure a lot of you Mars Volta fans know, but Omar Rodriguez Lopez does not have he doesn't have really a musical background. Like as far as knowing music theory, things like that. He's not a classically trained musician. He learned to play himself. He created his own scales, he's a left-handed guitarist, obviously, which I also connect with because I'm left-handed, but I play right-handed. Different story, different video for a different day. But and I've said this on a previous video of my channel, he's the Frank Zappa of today. Like, he is a brilliant person. And I love Cedric. Cedric Bixler, Zavala. I think he's great. I love his vocal stuff. And I remember one of my previous managers, he said, the Mars Volta reminded him of James Brown and Carlos Santana mixed together with just some with just as far as how the band is. And I was like, I completely agree. You know what I mean? So really a great, Francis the Mute, fantastic. I'd probably have to put it at number 2. So I think Deleuze 1, Francis the Mute 2, Amputexture 3. That's probably in my top 3. Some of my favorites on Deleuze, I know I'm jumping from 3 to 1, but bear with me here. Roulette Dares. Anyone who's a Mars Volta fan obviously loves Roulette Dares. Tarka, phenomenal song. Drunken Ships of Lanterns, I think is super great, really great. And then obviously Take the Serpentine. This is a classic song. I just love the building of this. I think it's phenomenal. Televators is very good too. I think it's underrated. But Take the Veil Serpentax, just the brilliance in that song of the construction is just so impactful. Even because they released kind of the raw version of the project, Landscape Tantrum, the unfinished recordings of Deleuze. You just kind of see you kind of hear the genius in the song, when you're listening to this. And this is a really dope thing to own as well. I have a vinyl of this. Just kind of seeing these brilliant songs being constructed bit by bit. And obviously a lot of these songs on this specific, the Landscape Tantrums, there's a lot of lyrics that Cedric hasn't finished writing yet, but he's still kind of creating this melody along with the song. It's kind of like writing as they're performing in a sense, but they're still recording. But just really captivating just to see that music being built. And even though it's not maybe the tightest of recordings as far as for their final project or whatever, their final recordings, when they were tracking, but really an amazing experience just hearing everything come together where you're like, this is something that is it's fucking amazing. So yeah, amazing stuff there. But yeah, definitely I'd probably have to put the Deleuze number 1, Amputexture at number 3, and obviously we're going to talk about number 2, Francis the Mute. Francis the Mute is one of those albums that I kind of found out through, or I guess I started to listen to more so through like a YouTube, YouTube, just down the rabbit hole, if you will. of seeing some live videos, and then I think Visman Cygnus came up, and definitely one of my favorite songs on the project. Ilvia, obviously, is a great one, and I think if I'm not mistaken, I think John Frusciante did the solo to that one, throughout that song. But yeah, Cygnus, Vidman Cygnus, I love that one. I used to love the just that breakdown where Rodriguez does that solo, and seeing different versions of that solo during different live performances. There's some where he plays it a little more traditionally, but then there's one performance, I forgot what it fucking was, but there's a performance where it's probably arguably his best solo recorded. Omar Rodriguez Lopez for this particular song, the version just when he recorded for that solo. It was a very it's a very old YouTube video. I know it was inside a dormitory or inside performance, very dark lights and whatnot, dim lights, but he was really building that solo really well. And I want to say John Theodore was playing the drums at the time of this specific video that I'm referring to, because I know obviously he's played it with the other drummers or whatnot that have been in and out of the Mars Volta, Thomas President, for example. But yeah, the John Theodore I think was playing drums for this specific solo that I'm referring to here. But yeah, great song. My favorite part of this piece is definitely Cassandra Gemini, Pterantism. Man, I imagine a zombie apocalypse. I imagine the world coming to an end, and I hear this song. I hear this song play, and I can visually see a swarm of zombies coming towards somebody, and a group of people trying to escape a city, a town, or what have you, and shit is just falling apart. That I've just always have visualized that as I've listened to that song. I'm like, this is fucking amazing. So great shit. A really good album that Bedlam and Goliath. Honestly, it's probably the least listened to album from the Mars Volta. I mean, probably even less than Octahedron, because Octahedron has a couple of bangers, like Code Epoxy, I think is fantastic. But Bedlam and Goliath is a solid project as well. I mean, I know it obviously has a really crazy story behind it. I've mentioned it before on these videos, I want to say. Yeah, this is a solid album too. You know what I mean? There's some pretty solid projects on here. Wax and Mulch is really good. Goliath is fantastic. Conjugal Burns, really fantastic as well. You definitely feel like there's some crazy weirdness around that one. Yeah, this is a solid project too. Definitely huge, big. And this is kind of the last of their like super crazy experimental stuff. And they kind of calmed down in a sense after that with Octahedron. And I will say, when I listened to Octahedron originally, I think I don't know if I was disappointed. I don't think I was, because I knew that they were changing as a band, they're getting older as a band, experimenting different things. It's a good album. It's a good album. It's a good project. And this is kind of one of those projects where I feel like Cedric really had to focus on his writing within a pop format. I know he's mentioned that in some of his interviews, but you really see that on here. You really see that on here. Even a little bit of Bedlam Goliath, but you really see that here in particular. So interesting stuff. A good album, but definitely I would have to say it's one of my least listened to albums. But it's actually between this and Nocturnicate, to be honest. This is probably the least listened to album. I don't know why either. I'm gonna have to listen. I want to go through all of the Mars Volta, at least all the stuff that's on Spotify. I know they have some other stuff that's probably not on here. But I want to go through all this stuff before I listen to the new one. So, and this is a good one, and this is a solid project too. I know D'Anthony Parks, the drummer, he's my favorite drummer, by the way. I just love how he drums. I think his style is incredible. His skill is incredible. And he drummed on this guy, Nocturnicate, the last album prior to them kind of breaking up or just not making music in general. So, but yeah, this was a good project. I think I was disappointed when I listened to it. I feel like some of the songs didn't feel as focused compared to some other albums. Even Octahedron was very focused. It was a very focused album. You know, even though it had a different sound, it still was a very focused album. I can't say that for Nocturne again. I feel like there was some ideas that it was going to. I know there was like a Solomon Grundy type of or I might be just referring to Z in 2 knots, but there was some Solomon Grundy type concept stuff that they were playing around with. Aegis is pretty good, or Aegis is pretty good, but yeah, it didn't capture me as much as I would have liked. But I gotta say, buddy, these songs here definitely I liked all of them, and they're very different. They're definitely not all the same. And really mess with those. So I gotta check that out. I guess that's just a single from that, isn't it? Yeah, it's just a single from it. Anyway, but yeah, I'm a fan of these singles. But like I said, I'm going to listen to these albums from the beginning to the new. That is my goal. Absolutely. So we'll see if I'll be able to actually do it. But I wanted to give this video here just to talk about my favorite albums from the Mars Volta. And I am super excited. Hope you're excited as far as the release for this album. Again, follow me on J Powell Music if you can. I'd love to have you be a part of just the J Powell crew talking about this music, Mars Volta and whatnot. I will have more videos here coming up later this week. Until then, I'll see you on the 16th.